So let's talk about inspiration. As a DM, storyteller, or just someone who genuinely loves getting lost in a good world, you don't just wake up one day with a fully formed fantasy setting and everything ready to go in your head. Inspiration typically has to come from somewhere. And for me, that inspiration comes from everywhere. Books, plays, musicals, movies, video games, I mean, you name it, I will take anything. Some of these things have really shaped how I run my games, how I write stories, and how I think about storytelling as a whole. And today, I kind of just wanted to casually go through some of those things, talk about some of my biggest inspirations, read passages from books, and just gush about things. I believe that inspiration and passion are infectious. If you see somebody super amped and excited and really loving what they're doing, there's a chance that it could really inspire you. And I really think that these things have made me a better DM, a better writer, and just a better creative person. And because this is my list, you already know we're going to be talking about a lot of fantasy stuff. But we're also going to talk about how you can maybe integrate that stuff into your own D&D game, if you want to. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. First things first are books that have inspired me. So fantasy books for me were the gateway into world building and character arcs and the weight of a good story. And there are very few series that hit harder than Wheel of Time. So this right here is a passage from The Great Hunt that has stuck with me ever since I read it many, many, many years ago. It's a scene where one of the main characters, Ran, arguably the main character, experiences countless possible lives in the span of seconds. And this is the passage. Flicker, 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 flicker. He was a soldier. He was a shepherd. He was a beggar and a king. He was a farmer, gleeman, sailor, carpenter. He was born, lived, and died an Aiel. He died mad, he died rotting, he died of sickness, age, accident. He was executed, and multitudes cheered his death. He proclaimed himself the dragon reborn and flung his banner across the sky. He ran from the power and hid. He lived and died never knowing. He held off the madness and the sickness for years. He succumbed between two winters. Sometimes Moraine came and took him away from the two rivers, alone or with those friends of his who had survived winter night. Sometimes she did not. Sometimes other Aes Sedai came for him. Sometimes the Red Aja. Egwene married him. Egwene, stern-faced, in the stole of the Amerlin seat, led the Aes Sedai who gentled him. Egwene, with tears in her eyes, plunged a dagger into his heart, and he thanked her as he died. He loved other women, married other women, Elaine, men, and the fair-haired farmer's daughter he met on the road to Camelin. And women he had never seen before. He lived those lives. 100 lives. More. So many he could not count them. At the end of every life, as he lay dying, as he drew his final breath, a voice whispered in his ear, "I have won again, Luz Therin." Flicker, 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 and so on. The passage about the alternate lives being lived, it captures fate in a way that few stories do. It's terrifying. Honestly, the idea that no matter what he does, he's always caught in this cycle, always destined for that final confrontation. It makes the world feel massive, and it makes the stakes feel inescapable. If you want to make your players feel that weight in a campaign, weave fate into your storytelling. Give them visions, prophecies, possibilities that choices don't matter. Let them feel the pull of destiny, but always with a way to fight back. Speaking of fate, let's move on from prophecy and inevitability to a series that redefined fantasy storytelling, and that is A Song of Ice and Fire. I think my favorite thing about George R.R. Martin is he doesn't just write fantasy, he writes people. His worlds feel alive because his characters are really complicated. I mean, they lie, they struggle, and most importantly, they make mistakes. And that's what makes moments like these hit so hard. The snow drifted down in all the ghostly silence and lay thick and unbroken on the ground. The colors had fled the world outside. It was a place of whites and blacks and grays. White towers and white snow, white statues, black shadows and black trees, the dark gray sky above. A pure world, Sansa thought. I do not belong here. I mean, in just those few lines, we really feel her isolation, that beauty, that tragedy, just both at the same time. I feel like Sansa is one of my favorite characters to read in the Song of Ice and Fire series. That isolation is something that I just think is so interesting and intriguing for such a young person to experience. And I think, for the most part, George does a really good job showcasing that tragedy. But then there's another conversation. This one is specifically between Sansa and the Hound, and it is so cold, and it's such a big inspiration for me about how you can run morally gray NPCs. What will you do when he crosses? Fight, kill, die, maybe? Aren't you afraid? The gods might send you down to some terrible hell for all the evil you've done? What evil? What gods? The gods who made us all? All? Tell me, little bird, what kind of god makes a monster like the imp or a half-wit like Lady Tanda's daughter? If there are gods, they made sheep so wolves could eat the mutton, and they made the weak for the strong to play with. True knights protect the weak. He snorted. There are no true knights, no more than there are gods. If you can't protect yourself, die and get out of the way of those who can. Sharp steel and strong arms rule this world. Don't ever believe any different. Sansa backed away from him. You're awful. I'm honest. It's the world that's awful. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason why the characters in A Song of Ice and Fire hit so hard, because the series doesn't give you a clear moral line to follow for what's good and what's evil. The characters, their worldviews, their perceptions of good and evil are so warped by their worldviews. Everybody in A Song of Ice and Fire has this different perspective about what is necessary and what is right. I guess my main takeaway from A Song of Ice and Fire is specifically, excluding everything with the White Walkers. When it comes to making villains more compelling, make sure they think they're the hero or they're doing what's right, even if they know it's not good. You want to give them a worldview that makes sense, even if it is terrifying. There are a few passages from Lord of the Rings that I do really, really, really love, and I am going to be entirely honest, I don't exactly know how you incorporate them into your D&D games aside from just saying, wow, that was awesome. I love fantasy. So I'm going to read those passages, and you can skip to the next timestamp if you want. Like I said, this is more casual, fast and casual, This is the Culvers of D&D advice right here. So take your ticket and move on. We'll give you the food when it's ready. There, peering among the cloud rack above a dark tower high up in the mountains, Sam saw a white star twinkle for a while. The beauty of it smote his heart as he looked up out of that forsaken land, and hope returned to him. For like a shaft, clear and cold, the thought pierced him that in the end the shadow was only a small, passing thing, that there was light and high beauty forever beyond its reach. Oh my God. Dude, everything about Sam's approach and his outlook on life, I think is so refreshing for a player character or for an NPC to have, to say, I can recognize the beauty. I can recognize that there is still hope to help keep pushing everybody forward. It's really easy in terrible situations to be all doom and gloom. It's incredibly difficult to continue to have hope in the face of adversity. There's a quote by Faramir, my boy, Faramir, war must be, while we defend our lives against a destroyer who would devour all. But I do not love the bright sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory. I love only that which they defend. I will say I did just make a video about the Lord of the Rings talking about lessons we can learn from Tolkien about world building and storytelling. You can check that out over frickin' here. Nope, over here. Dude, oh my God. I just read these and I immediately go, how can I have an NPC that has that approach, that speaks that poetically, that artfully? And the reality is that's not always gonna happen, but one thing that I like to do is I like to take quotes from books or movies or TV shows or video games that I really like, and I say, how can I rework this quote for a certain NPC? Because here's the thing, if you've never heard this, everything is a remix, right? Everything is an iteration upon an iteration upon an iteration. We're all inspired by everything. Anything we make somebody can go, hey, isn't that kind of like these three things combined? And at that point, if it's like three things combined into one, it's not theft. You know, I mean, unless you're saying, oh yeah, this story is about a wizard's council. There's Gandalf, there's Dumbledore, and then there's Merlin, and they all come together, and they do some things together. Right, that's theft. But if you take elements of a story and you start to piece them together into your own thing, that's not theft. That's remixing your inspirations. That's reusing things that you saw that you liked to create something new. This is such a dumb analogy, but if somebody uses sticks to make fire, they're creating something new from the sticks. People don't go, well, you're just stealing from sticks. Like, huh? Hello? And I know that art is more complicated than that, but it's the same vibe, you know? Don't tell people they're stealing from sticks. Okay, that's the point I'm trying to make. And then what we're gonna do is we're actually going to move on to theater now, because books are just one medium, but the stage is another. And considering that my background is in theater education, of course theater is gonna inspire me. And I'm a firm believer that if you want to be a great DM, you should study theater. Why? Because plays, they live and die by their dialogue, tension, and stakes. And there were few playwrights that understood that better than Shakespeare. So I have a full video coming out sometime this month about why Shakespeare is still one of the best resources for DMs, so make sure to subscribe for that. But I do want to talk very briefly about Macbeth and Richard III. This is a small excerpt from Macbeth near the end of the play, after Macbeth is told that Lady Macbeth is dead. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Dude, like, I know that you probably listen to that, and if you don't have a deep love for Shakespeare, you probably went, what the f*** is he on about? Why is he, shut up, Shakespeare nerd. I get it, okay? But here's the thing. I read that and I go, oh my God, that's so good. How can I do something like it? How can I create something in my world where my players hear me? They hear me say something and they go, oh my God, that was good. What the oh, you know, just really like visceral reactions. I freaking love it, man. I think a great example for DMs, if you want to add elements of political intrigue, literally just rip Shakespeare III. I mean, just say that, like, yeah, this king or this duke in this royal court is going to literally destroy everything, all of his family members, all of his political allies, so he can crawl his way to the top so he can be king. But in the end, oh shit, wasn't worth it because now you don't have anybody to protect you. Uh-oh. Or if you want to add prophecies and paranoia, do something similar to Macbeth. It goes back to the Wheel of Time thing about fate being inescapable. I think that if you create fate for an NPC, that can be inescapable. When it comes to fate and prophecies for your players, you maybe want to give them a way out of that. But the reason why I love bringing this stuff up is because Shakespeare knew how to build tension, and his plays are perfect blueprints for dramatic campaigns. And I'll be talking more about why Shakespeare's so good in terms of universal characters and universal plots, but that will be later this month. Another book that I want to add a quick note here at the end of the book section is the Sword Mage series. It is quick, punchy, and fun. If you really struggle with reading, like I do, I really, really, really recommend it. It's short, it's fun, it's snappy. I mean, it is pure D&D energy, and it takes you through some really cool places in Faerun. And I really think that it's a great book for not only getting ideas for what a campaign could be, but how the world can interact with the players that are playing in a campaign. And shout out to my wonderful wife, Kayla, for the recommendation of the book like 9 years ago, and I just got around to reading it a year ago, so thanks for that. Sorry it took me so long. Really enjoyed it though. In terms of theater, there are a couple more shows that inspire me, 2 musicals in particular. One is Hadestown. There is a line, a lyric in Hadestown that goes, "See, Orpheus was a poor boy. He had a gift to give. He could make you see how the world could be in spite of the way that it was. I mean, if you really want to understand why storytelling is and can be so powerful, Hadestown nails it. It's not just about telling a story, it's about making people feel it, making them feel connected to the stories and to the characters and what they experience. Not just the NPCs, but you want the players, when something bad happens to their character, you want them to feel it and not like a, man, I can't believe my freaking character freaking got hit with a spell and they're dead now, right? You don't want your players to pout about it, and some players are going to do that regardless. But when your player heroically sacrifices themselves to save the rest of the party, you want it to be a moment where they go, yeah, man. I'm going to miss Sir Dickon a lot. So, that's the reaction you want to get from your players, not the pouty, whiny, cry, baby little thing. But as we DMs know, sometimes that's just impossible to avoid for some reason. Oh my goodness gracious. Let's move on. The last thing I want to talk about for musicals is Sweeney Todd and Stephen Sondheim in particular, because he was a master of motifs, musical themes that repeat and evolve throughout the story, if you weren't familiar. Now, unless you're out here composing custom music for your campaign, which you probably aren't, but if you are, please share it with me. That would be so cool. I would love to hear it. You might think that motifs don't really apply to D&D, but you can do it. You can use musical motifs in gameplay. In my last campaign, it was actually kind of like a dual campaign where two campaigns were existing in the same world and fighting pretty much the same big bad evil guy. I used motif in that game. I used the Beast from Sicario as the villain's theme. The second it started playing, my players started to panic. I didn't even have to say anything. The music did all the work for me. And thank you to Ryan for the recommendation of that music. It worked out really well in the end, bud. Thanks for that. I also want to do a quick couple of mentions here for some video games that have inspired me and how I approach DMing and world building and all that good stuff. The Uncharted series I use for set pieces and pacing. I mean, the Jeep chase in Uncharted 4 is an absolute master class in pacing. It is relentless, cinematic, and you don't care that you really don't have any agency aside from fire gun and move left stick, move right, it's so fun. You are sucked in. In D&D, you need more moments like that. Give your players roller coaster sequences and they'll never forget it. Just tell your players straight up, okay guys, we're gonna go into a bit of a cutscene right now. When you get into a moment like that, your players just need to trust you. And if they don't trust you yet, well, you maybe need to do more to earn that trust. Maybe you need to have a conversation then about, trust me that I'm not going to do those. I'm not going to do negative things to your character. I just want there to be cool, action-packed set pieces. Another one that I'll give a honorable mention to is Dark Souls and Elden Ring. I mean, all of the From Software games. If you've ever played one of those games, you know when that boss music when that hits and the boss bar pops up and that passive storytelling that happens from the items. I mean, you get it. You get it. It is so incredibly cool. I think that the one tip that I would give for DMs is use Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Bloodborne music for your boss fights. I mean, there is not a game series that has such a wide discography of music like From Software games that you can pull from for your boss fights. It is some of the best music that you can use. And, include small little lore tidbits on items or weapons that your players find, just to, help build the world and build the story that you're trying to tell. The final video game I will talk about, and I feel like I would get chastised by my friends if I didn't bring it up, and that's Skyrim in particular. So just on Steam, I have about 2,500 hours, and I don't feel good saying that. Most of it's mod troubleshooting, I'm pretty sure, but it's still a lot of hours. So I think it's safe to say that I've gotten lost in the world of Skyrim and the world of Tamriel quite a few times, and that's because they make exploration feel so organic. And organic exploration, especially in a more sandbox style game, that's what you want. You want to give your players tons of things to go and see and do and explore, because if you do, then they'll want to go. They'll have tons of options, and the options can be overwhelming, but they'll never run out of things to do. And especially if you really prefer more emergent storytelling in terms of a style for a DM, that's what you want to do. You want to follow Bethesda and how they have designed the exploration, or how exploration is rewarded in Skyrim. I think that's probably the best thing they did in that game, was how you're rewarded for exploration and how exploration works. I also want to do a quick shout out to Baldur's Gate 3, as it is a perfect example as to why the scaling of story stakes is so important as you level up. It also made me realize whenever I would do co-op games with my friends and my players in particular, how much they just really wanted to play dress up. There's so much more I could talk about. I feel bad for not mentioning any TV shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Arcane, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, those things that have inspired me when I watch them. But these ones that I talked about right here, right now, they are the big ones. These are stories, moments, and worlds that shaped how I really think about storytelling. But before I wrap this up, I have to talk about the one movie that means the most to me. And yeah, I'm kind of already cheating because I mentioned the book already, and in my last video about inspiration, that was one of the first videos I posted on this channel, I already talked about it, but I'm gonna do it again. The Lord of the Rings. This was the movie that introduced me to fantasy. It was my gateway into the genre, and nothing else had ever clicked quite the same since. But there is one moment in The Return of the King that defines everything I love about storytelling. Aragorn's crowned king. Everyone bows to him, but as he walks up to the hobbits, the four who have been through hell and back, who left their homes and saved the world, instead of letting them kneel, he says, "You bow to no one." And then the Shire theme swells in on brass, and God, it is perfect. It's earned. It is the kind of emotional payoff that sticks with you for life. And honestly, that's what I want in the stories I tell. I want a moment where everything clicks, where the weight of the journey hits you and you realize why it all mattered. That moment of catharsis, that expulsion of emotion is what I'm looking for in my games. I remember when we were finishing up the War Against the Shadow campaigns, and we got to the end, the final moment where they would play their characters during the sort of celebration that the world had been saved. The final moments and conversations, the tears that followed in the epilogue. And I remember it was the most strange feeling I've ever felt, that combination in joy and sadness. It's so weird spending so much time on something, building something with your friends, and then to say, okay, it's done, it's over. And yeah, the story will live on and we'll always talk about those characters. But the story's done being told. And that moment, that final moment of catharsis of, okay. And that's where we're gonna end this campaign. Oh my God, dude. I don't know. Now I'm just musing on emotions and I'm just getting all ooey gooey, and I think that is a good place to end this video. I mean, I could talk for hours about it, about the feelings that I had there, about how you want to, engage your players in moments like those, and how you can stick the landing when you end a campaign. So if you are interested in hearing more about my inspirations, my style of DMing, or anything like that, be sure to subscribe and join for the future. Be sure to check out Crimson Court on Saturdays on Twitch. It's the campaign that I DM. It's like Game of Thrones. There are 5 heirs to the throne, each one with a viable claim, and they're forced to work together, an organization that was set up by the king for them to go out into the world and do the king's business and see which one would be best for the throne. So check that out if that sounds interesting. On Twitch in the description, Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, everybody. If there's anything that inspires you, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Tell me, give me more stuff to watch, consume, read. I'd love to try. And I will see you in the next one.